Virtue ethics. You're sitting in a quiet room, watching the last light of day fade through your window. The world outside settles into evening stillness, and you find yourself thinking about a simple question that philosophers have wrestled with for thousands of years. What does it mean to be a good person? Not just to do good things, but to actually be good at the deepest level of your character. It seems like it should be straightforward, yet the more you consider it, the more complex it becomes. Here lies one of philosophy's most beautiful paradoxes. The idea that virtue is both completely natural to us and something we must spend our entire lives learning. Ancient Stoics believed that living virtuously was the most human thing we could do, as natural as breathing. Yet they also taught that becoming virtuous required constant practice, discipline, and wisdom that might take decades to develop. How can something be both innate and learned, both effortless and requiring tremendous effort? You begin to notice this strange duality everywhere in Stoic thought. On one hand, they argued that virtue is the only true good, that external circumstances like wealth, fame, or even physical comfort are ultimately irrelevant to your well-being. Your capacity for courage, justice, wisdom, and temperance exists independently of anything the world might give or take away. On the other hand, Stoics lived fully in the world, engaging with politics, relationships, and daily responsibilities with deep commitment. Take Marcus Aurelius, writing his personal reflections while managing an entire empire. He understood that his external role as emperor was neither good nor bad in itself, yet he approached his duties with extraordinary care and dedication. This wasn't contradiction, but integration, a recognition that virtue expresses itself through engagement, not withdrawal from life's complexities. You start to see how this paradox plays out in your own experience. The moments when you felt most genuinely yourself, most aligned with your deepest values, often came not from perfect circumstances, but from how you responded to imperfect ones. The courage you discovered when facing something difficult, the compassion that emerged naturally when someone needed help, the patience that developed through repeated challenges. Stoics called this living according to nature, but they meant something profound by nature. Not just biological impulses or desires, but your essential capacity for reason, choice, and virtue. Your true nature, they suggested, is your ability to respond thoughtfully rather than merely react instinctively. This creates another gentle paradox. Becoming natural requires practice. Becoming spontaneous requires discipline. Consider how the Stoics viewed emotions, another area where their wisdom reveals unexpected depth. They weren't advocating emotional numbness or detachment, despite common misunderstandings. Instead, they distinguished between initial emotional impressions and our judgments about those impressions. You feel the sting of criticism, the flutter of anxiety, the warmth of affection. These are natural and immediate responses to life. The Stoic practice involves the space between feeling and reaction, that crucial moment where you can choose your response. You can feel anger and choose justice instead of revenge. You can feel fear and choose courage instead of paralysis. You can feel desire and choose wisdom instead of compulsion. This isn't suppressing emotion, but transforming it through virtue. This transformation happens through what Stoics call the discipline of desire, the discipline of action, and the discipline of judgment. The discipline of desire teaches you to want what happens rather than demanding that what you want must happen. The discipline of action shows you how to engage fully with your responsibilities while holding outcomes lightly. The discipline of judgment develops your ability to see situations clearly, without the distortions of ego, fear, or wishful thinking. You begin to understand that these disciplines aren't rules imposed from outside, but practices that align you with your deepest nature. When you stop fighting reality and start working with it skillfully, when you take responsibility for what's truly yours to control and release what isn't, when you respond to life from wisdom rather than reactivity, you feel more yourself, not less. The Stoics spoke of virtue as its own reward, another concept that initially seems puzzling. How can being virtuous be rewarding if virtue often requires sacrifice, difficulty, or choosing the harder path? Yet you've probably experienced moments when doing the right thing, even when it cost you something, left you with a deep sense of satisfaction that external rewards couldn't match. This satisfaction comes from alignment, from the harmony between your actions and your values, between your choices and your character. When you act with genuine courage, justice, wisdom, or temperance, you strengthen those capacities in yourself. Each virtuous choice makes the next one more natural, more available, more truly yours. Perhaps this is why Stoics emphasized that virtue is a practice rather than a destination. You don't achieve courage once and have it forever. You develop it through repeated acts of facing what needs to be faced. You don't become wise through learning facts, but through applying understanding skillfully to real situations, again and again. The beauty of this approach is that it makes every moment an opportunity for practice. Traffic delays become opportunities for patience. Disagreements become opportunities for justice and understanding. Uncertainties become opportunities for courage. Mistakes become opportunities for wisdom. Nothing is wasted when viewed through the lens of virtue ethics. This transforms your relationship with difficulty itself. Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles to happiness, you begin to recognize them as the very means through which character develops. The Stoics didn't seek out suffering, but they understood that growth requires resistance, just as muscles strengthen through exercise rather than rest. You start to notice how this perspective brings a quiet dignity to ordinary life. Washing dishes with attention becomes an expression of virtue. Listening patiently to someone who's struggling becomes a form of philosophical practice. Choosing your response rather than simply reacting becomes a way of honoring your essential nature as a rational, choosing being. As you let these ideas settle into your awareness, you might feel a gentle shift in how you hold your own life's challenges and opportunities. The Stoic path doesn't promise easy answers or quick fixes. Instead, it offers something more valuable, a way of being that remains available regardless of circumstances, a source of stability that depends not on external conditions, but on your own choices and character. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, you can rest in the knowledge that virtue isn't something distant or complex. It's as close as your next choice, as available as your next breath. It's not about solving the paradox of being human, but about noticing how wisdom emerges naturally when you stop fighting your essential nature and start expressing it skillfully, moment by moment, choice by choice.